But if you are doing that kind of thing, and particularly a combination of lots of them, you will export more than input. Fantastic. You can keep producing stuff and sell it overseas, and you can put dollars in the bank, and you have a nice big current account surplus and a big pile of reserves, and you feel safe. But somebody's on the other side of that. Someone's running their deficit. Someone's seeing deindustrialization. Someone's seeing money flood out of the country and having to borrow more to fill the gap. And so the system will break down. Absolutely. Keynes saw that at the end of World War II. Keynes proposed a completely different system, which we didn't adopt because the US was the big exporter at the end of World War II. So it didn't want to give up its power. Now it's the big importer. It wants to change things. Whoever is the exporter will never want to change it. Whoever is the importer always will. This is the human condition. But the system is breaking down nonetheless. And anyone who thinks it isn't didn't understand what the system was.
So it sounds like, is it the importers who are going to benefit in this shift and the exporters who are going to be affected? Or is that sort of too broad? It's a case-by-case basis.
Well, that's how it should work. That's how it should work. And that's exactly what the US thought would happen in this instance, and that China would be hit harder. What they didn't recognize, of course, is that China now dominates supply chains to such a degree globally that if you don't get it from China, you don't get it from anyone. So you suddenly go from saying, haha, you're not selling it to me, to, oh, well, I don't have any of X. Like, I don't have any of these widgets or products that I need. And without that, my whole supply chain collapses. So that's China's power, that they can control that. And the US needs to get away from that to the point where it produces at home again. And everyone can see that, both Democrat and Republican. Problem is, you can't get there without pain once you've allowed China to get to the position that it's in now. Ergo, to go back to where the conversation started, you suddenly get this tactical pivot to say, okay, that hurt too much to have the embargo right now. Let's have 90 days to allow people to take a breather. It's no different, as I said, to having a ceasefire during a war. Go and pick up the wounded from the battlefield, go and treat them, but then invest a lot of time and money in rearming and getting sure that you're ready for the round two, because it will be coming.
But then do you still see China being negatively, I'm guessing both countries are probably negatively impacted by the shift in the future, but is China going to be worse off?
Well, that's a really key question. If you're anti-US or very skeptical of the US, which I take a lot of people to be, then you'll say the US is so indebted, so polarized, so lacking in the ability to do things anymore, and so financialized. So all it wants to do is make money from money rather than making money from making things, that it can't ever go back. It's too late. And if that is the case, then the US is done. It'll take a long time to be completely done, but its hegemony will eventually crack. Its military won't be able to sustain itself, quite understandably, because you can't make things. You can't make aircraft carriers on the scale you need to, whereas China can. You can't make F-35s at the speed you need to, which China can with its J-10s. So, if that is true, you want to be very, very bearish on the dollar. You want to be very bearish on the US. You want to be very bearish on the entire West, because don't think Europe looks good in this environment. It looks terrible. Don't think Australia or New Zealand or Canada look good. They look terrible. It's terrible for the West, if that's true. On the other hand, you can turn around and say China is nowhere near as strong as it looks. The millions of people will lose their jobs from these tariffs. We estimated years ago about 22 to 25 million people would. That was a couple of years ago. Subsequently, we're seeing much more, high-level people come out, much more famous people than myself, I should say, not high-level, coming out and saying, well, it's going to be 16 or 17 million people. It's like, well, we got there first, and we think you're wrong. It's even worse than that. So they can't wear that very easily. No country wants to see that kind of level of unemployment, because that's just from direct manufacturing jobs. You add in the services jobs on the back of that, and it's an appalling figure. So what are they going to do? Well, they need to find someone else to sell to, but there isn't. There's no one else to sell to in a global system that was built on US overconsumption and everyone else overproduction. So logically, the producer should be hurt more. But it's not true if the consumer doesn't have any other alternative supply in the meantime. So this is effectively the mutually assured destruction that's in place. And the US needs to be thinking very tactically and strategically to get out of it. And I think we've just seen that demonstrated.